Well, buckle up, buckaroos. It's another edition of the Alpha Male 2.0 podcast, and I am Caleb Jones, and I apologize for the audio quality because I'm in transit yet again. I'm going somewhere kind of important, but I can't tell you where that is yet, but you will know very soon. I want to tell you a story, and this is a true story from my life from when I was a kid, and some of you already know this. I was raised in the bizarre world of Roman Catholicism. I was raised Catholic. My mom was a Catholic nun, a real nun where she actually wore that black and white habit. She was a nun for 8 years before she met my dad. Matter of fact, when she met my dad, she was still a nun. She actually dated my dad briefly as a nun. Bad girl. She's clearly going to hell. And then she quit the nunnery to marry my dad. And then they got married and they had 5 kids. And they were married for, I believe 45 years before they got their divorce a few years ago, because long-term monogamy doesn't work. But anyway, because my mom was a nun and I was her first child, was the first of her 5 children, we were raised when I was little, when I was young, in a very, very Catholic household. Very Catholic. Today, my mom is a, Barack Obama loving left-winger. But back in those days, 45 plus years ago, when I was a little kid, I was raised in a Catholic home. And as part of that, I was raised in a Catholic school. So I went to a public kindergarten. Actually this is kind of funny. I went to a Jewish preschool because my parents were poor. They couldn't afford to go to a nice preschool. So they found out if you went to the Jewish preschool, it was cheaper. And so I don't know if they lied, said they were Jews. I don't know what happened, but I went to a Jewish preschool. Then I went to a public kindergarten. And then finally they had enough money, barely. And this is back in the 70s when low income people were able to do this. They were able to send me and my sister, the 2 oldest kids in the family, to Catholic school. The other kids had to go to public schools because they couldn't afford it. So I went to a Catholic school from 1st grade all the way to 8th grade, 8 years. And if you don't know how this works in a Catholic school, first you wear uniforms. So when I was a little kid, all I could wear were blue corduroy pants and a white button-down shirt. For about 4 or 5 years, every day, that's all I wore, at least on school days. And then later, about 5 years later, they added in, you could wear gray corduroy pants and a red non-button-down shirt, like a polo shirt. They added those 2 items so you could change it up a little bit. So I wore uniforms to school for 8 years. And when you go to a Catholic school or a Christian school, any private school that has a religious basis, one of your classes during the day is religion. So from 1st grade all the way to 8th grade, we would have, social studies and then math and then PE, and then we'd have religion. And that was just one of the classes you took. That was one of the parts of the day. It was just a normal thing. And of course, when they said religion, they meant Catholic societal programming. And something that I found very interesting at the time when I was a kid, and I didn't realize how important it was until much, much later in life when I reflected back on this, and it's the topic of this podcast, is that when we sat there in religion class, so my class was maybe 28, 29 students, and it was the same 28 or 29 kids all 8 years because it was a very small little school. So every year it was the same group of kids because it was a small, tiny little Catholic school attached to a church. And when we had religion class, they would teach us about, God and Jesus, and they taught us a lot about Mary, because Mary's a really big deal in the Catholic faith. They taught us about the 10 Commandments and the act of contrition, and they had us memorize all the prayers. And to this day, I have still in my head all these Catholic prayers. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now. I could go on and on and on. I have all these fucking prayers in my head from when I was a little kid because they drilled this shit into me. And often we would talk about the Bible. We would talk about things that happen in the Bible, particularly the New Testament. But they didn't spend a lot of time in the Old Testament when I was a kid, at least not that I remember. But they made a big deal about the New Testament, about Jesus and the apostles. And here's what happened. And this is very interesting. When they said something fantastical about Jesus, so let's say they said, and then Jesus walked upon the water of the lake, even though there were ripples, and to see the apostles in the boat. And who was it? One of the apostles got excited. Was it John? John got excited and jumped out. He tried to walk to Jesus, but because he wasn't Jesus and he wasn't the Son of God, he actually fell into the water and had to swim. Jesus had to help him and shit. And so when they said Jesus actually walked, and they would say Jesus actually walked on the water. He walked on the water. Like the bad Superman in Superman 2. He walked on the water. Most of the kids in the class, not all of them, but the vast majority went, oh, okay, They just accepted it. What I did was something very different. And I got into trouble with my teachers several times for this throughout my childhood. I would say, wait, what? Wait, what? You mean he swam really well? No, he literally walked on the water, Caleb. He walked on the water? How does that work? Did he put salt in the water? Did he have some kind of, jetpack on? Did anyone video this? Do we have any video evidence of this? Do we have photo evidence of this? How exactly does that fucking work? People can't walk on water. And then they would give me the usual bullshit, Christian societal programming about, well, he was the son of God and you have to have faith and blah, 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 blah. And I went, wait, what? That makes no sense. I mean, why is this the only class where you can just tell me something that doesn't make any sense and you don't have to back it up? Because in other subjects like mathematics, they would teach me something that I didn't think would make sense. And I said, wait, that doesn't make any sense. They go, well, let me show you. And they would show me with the numbers how it made sense. And I would go, oh, okay, now it makes sense because you proved it. Got it. But for some reason, I didn't understand as I was a little kid, religion was the only class where they weren't required to do that. They could just say all this crazy shit. Here's another thing. They said, they talk about Lazarus. And Lazarus was a guy that Jesus brought back from the dead. He died, and Jesus actually brought him back from the dead. Well, class, what happened is Lazarus got up and walked out of the tomb, and he was just fine, and he greeted his family, and and again, most of the kids in the class went, oh, okay, oh, cool. But I went, wait, what? Wait, he brought someone back from the dead? So Jesus is like a wizard? He has magical superpowers? You can't bring people back from the dead. That doesn't make any sense. What the fuck? Now, to be fair, I wasn't the only kid in the class who had this reaction. There were one or two others who were like me and said, wait, what? Wait, he touched the man on the street who was blind and suddenly he could see again? What? Whereas again, most of the other kids in the class, so out of about 28 kids, 25 of them just nodded their heads and went, oh, okay, yeah. But there were about 3 of us who went, wait, what? What? What the fuck are you talking about? Now, let me clarify a few things about this. And this is important, and this is a big point of confusion for a lot of people. The kids who were the deniers, who were actually engaged in some level of critical thinking and who said, wait, what? Those kids were not the smartest kids in the class. I was not the smartest kid in my class. I was one of the smarter kids, to be fair. I have a high IQ. I'm a pretty smart guy. But I was by no means the smartest kid in the class. Or even among the, there were probably 2 or 3 kids smarter than me. A lot of the super smart kids were in the same category of the kids who just nodded their heads and bought the bullshit. They just went, oh, okay. There was absolutely no correlation between intelligence and whether or not certain kids bought into the false societal programming. And that's really, really, really important. What people seem to think, or most people seem to think, is that only dumb people or average people can buy into insane theories or insane concepts and believe in insane things. That's not true. The United States and Europe is full of college professors who are extremely intelligent, extremely high IQs, extremely well-read, extremely knowledgeable, extremely educated, who believe in psycho shit like Marxism. And they really believe this stuff. So intelligence has no correlation whatsoever. I am not saying that I had this reaction when I was a little kid about, wait, what? Wait, what? That makes no sense. Because I was smart. Because some of the other kids who also had that reaction weren't smart at all. They were average. And many of the kids who were very smart as me, and in some cases much smarter than me, were the ones who bought the bullshit. Very, very, very important to understand this. And it shocked me later in life when I reflected back on this, that so many kids in the classroom, including the smart kids, including the really, really smart kids, just nodded their heads and went along with whatever the teachers told them, even though they knew, or even though you could logically prove that what they were saying was psychotic and crazy and false, especially given the fact in the case of religion that you don't have to back it up with any logic or facts. Religion is the only thing in life besides politics, and we'll get to that in a second, where people can state these crazy things And you don't need to corroborate them at all with any logic or any facts, any verifiable facts at all. You just say them and you have to believe them. You just have to have faith. And if you don't have faith, if you don't believe Jesus did these things, you know, you're kind of a sinner and you're kind of an asshole. At least there's 2 degrees to this. You're either an asshole if you don't believe this Jesus stuff, or you're childish. You know, you're just immature and you need to grow up, and just so you can give your life to God and acknowledge that Jesus is your Savior. And then someday you'll get there. You know, someday, Caleb, you'll figure it out. You'll acknowledge Jesus is your Savior someday. Someday. Those are the 2 reactions you get. And it's not just Christians. Muslims do the same thing. I've seen Buddhists do the same thing. Various different sects of Christianity do the same thing. It's not unique to Catholic belief structures or Christian belief structures. That's just the example I'm giving you because that's the example I grew up in. But it was very interesting to me later in life how the majority of the kids in that classroom just bought it. They just bought the societal program. Now, moving forward, those were little kids in like 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. As time went on, some of those kids who nodded their heads and just bought it, later in life figured out that it was BS, and then realized later, okay, yeah, those are just fairy tales I was taught when I was a kid because my parents were trying to raise me in a religion, blah, 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 blah. So if you're the type of person who, well, actually, let me circle back to that in a minute. I'm breaking these out into categories, and I'll describe why I'm doing this in a second. Then there's another category of kids in those classes who grew up, and instead of figuring this out, that this was BS, they doubled down on it. And they went, yes, this is exactly what happened. The Bible is literally true. Jesus is literally the Son of God. He is my Savior. And they leaned into this, and they became real hardcore Catholics or hardcore Christians. So you could kind of break it out into 3 categories. The people who immediately were engaging in critical thinking when they were told something that didn't make sense, they didn't believe it, they were skeptical of it. A second group of people who bought it initially, but over time when they did the research or learned some more things, acknowledged that the false societal programming was indeed false. And then a third category who never got there and just doubled down on the false societal programming and just enhanced it in their brains and just devoted their lives to it. 3 categories. Now let's switch this over to politics. So there are very, very intelligent people who believe things like, you know, we should just print up trillions of dollars and spend it on whatever we want. Nothing bad will ever happen because we owe it to ourselves. We should just make the minimum wage in the United States $15 an hour or $20 to $25 an hour across the board. Nothing bad will happen because people will have more money to spend. There are people who are communists. There are hardcore left-wingers who are true, not socialists, communists, Marxists, who really strongly believe in this, who are very intelligent, far smarter than me. Now, do they believe these things because they're dumb? No, they're not dumb. Some of them are not, be honest, let's be fair. Some of these people are very dumb. Yes, that's true. But a lot of them are very intelligent. They're not dumb. They just bought the bullshit. They were in that latter of those 2 categories. They read some articles or they talked to their left-wing college professor and they went, oh, okay, yes, that makes sense. They didn't engage in any critical thinking at all. If they read articles, they just kept reading more and more articles or books that reinforced that viewpoint. They didn't read a lot of opposing views because they didn't want to. They just bought it. And like the second category of kids I mentioned earlier, some of these people were like this when they were young in their 20s. And as they got older and they learned a little more, they went, oh, actually, no, that actually isn't true. Marxism would actually destroy our society. Probably not a good idea. But there are others who doubled down on it and said, nope, this is the way to do it. Now, this is not a left-wing problem. This is also a right-wing problem. There are a decent hunk of Trump supporters who are into this QAnon shit and other things like that. And matter of fact, in the last few weeks after the election, I had several of my people in my audience, guys in my audience, write in and say, Caleb, you're wrong. Donald Trump will be president. This is after the election. Now, this is in September and early January, or even after January 6th in some cases. Trump is going to shock the world. He's going to pull off this, that, and this, and he will actually end up being president before January 20th. You'll see, Caleb, you'll see. Well, how'd that work out, guys? Yeah. Now, are these people all stupid? No. And again, some of them are. I have definitely seen some very stupid Trump supporters make comments on my blogs over the past 4 years. That's true. But there are also a lot of very intelligent Trump supporters who believe this psychotic bullshit. There are. And again, it's not because they're dumb. It's because they bought it. They heard it, and they went, aha, yes, that makes perfect sense. Yes. Trump is invincible, and he is perfect, and he's going to make everything great again. It's, of course. They didn't engage in critical thinking. Religion and politics are the two areas in which this happens the most. But there are other areas like how to live your life. A lot of people who are hardcore into long-term monogamy are like this. Their mom or their dad explained this to them and how a marriage is supposed to look, how a relationship is supposed to look, or they went on a bunch of right-wing angry websites, or maybe some red pill websites and read this stuff, and I went, yep, that's how it works, yep. They didn't stop to think, wait a minute, what are the actual statistical odds of success of long-term monogamy working? What actually happens when you become long-term monogamous with a woman in the Western world in the 2020s? What actually occurs? They didn't engage in that analysis, and when they saw that, they just got mad. Now, did they do that because they're stupid? No, they did it because they just bought the bullshit. And I don't know exactly how this works. I wish I did. I don't know why the 2 or 3 of us in that class so long ago were told this stuff about Jesus, and we immediately became skeptical because it didn't make any logical sense, whereas the other 25 kids just bought it. It had nothing to do with intelligence. I don't think it has anything to do with upbringing. I think it is something inborn in people's personalities. And, I'd like to say that as a kid, I was very intelligent and I looked at all the angles. No, that's not true at all. I was a typical dumb kid. I didn't know. There was just something inborn in my personality that enabled me to see reality a little better than normal people. I don't know why that is, and I could only speculate. I really don't know, and I wish I did know. Me and those other 2 or 3 kids in that class. Now, does that mean that if you are told something that doesn't make any sense and you immediately buy it, you're forever fucked? No. And that's really important because, as I said, there were a number of kids in that class who, as they got older, into their teens or 20s or in some cases 30s, they finally realized, oh, okay, a lot of this stuff I was told in Catholic school is actually BS. And even then, some of them would say, well, some of it was good, some of it was valid, but a lot of it was stupid and doesn't make any sense. So you're not hopeless just because you were raised with certain values that don't make any sense and you believe them. Or else, my Alpha Male 2.0 stuff, no one would pay attention to me if that were true. If you were just hard locked into all the BS you were told as a child or as a young man, and there was no way for you to reevaluate that stuff, then I'd be in big trouble in terms of this Alpha 2.0 business. So that's not true. You can realize that certain things you were told and certain things you believe for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in some cases are actually wrong. You can question, you can get more data, and you can question your own facts in quotes. And again, there is a third category of people who are basically fucked. They hear something or they read a few things and they immediately buy it. They don't engage in any critical thinking whatsoever. They just buy it. It doesn't matter if they're intelligent or dumb, because I see a lot of very intelligent people do this. They just buy it and they double down on it for the rest of their lives. And as I've talked about in my books, they encounter a lot of pain and anger because of these belief structures, because they believe in things that aren't objectively true in reality. And the less you believe in objective reality, the more long-term pain and suffering and problems you will encounter. I've talked about that in The Unchained Man in great detail. The more your beliefs are congruent to objective reality, the better shot you have at long-term consistent happiness. Not happiness, long-term happiness. It is impossible. I was about to say very hard. It's actually impossible to be long-term consistently happy if you believe in things that are objectively false. If you believe that, well, I'm going to marry an 18-year-old who's a virgin because she'll never divorce me because she's Christian and her parents are still married. If you really believe that, boy, are you in for some major problems down the road. If you really believe, as so many guys did in 2016, that if I vote for this guy named Trump, he's actually going to make America great again. He's going to build a wall. He's going to drain the swamp. I can't help it. He's going to bring the manufacturing jobs back. He's going to end the wars. You really believe this stuff, boy, are you in for some very angry problems later, as I said in 2016 and as I was right. And that's just not just Trump supporters. There were millions of people who bought the bullshit about Barack Obama in 2008. And then by 2016, these people were fucking furious at all the things Barack Obama didn't do and the opposite of what he said he was going to do. There are a lot of very angry Bernie Sanders supporters who saw Bernie Sanders in 2020 do an entire 180 on the stuff he was promising. And basically, he became Joe Biden's campaign manager. And Joe Biden is a Democrat, but in terms of actual policy, he can't be further away from Bernie Sanders. Joe Biden's a fucking, corporatist. So yes, if you believe in false societal programming, it's going to be much, much, much harder for you, actually, frankly, impossible for you to be long-term consistently happy. The only shot you have in terms of long-term happiness in your life is to believe in things that are objectively true, even if they bother you emotionally when you first discover them. That's why I talk about that so much. It is a necessary component to long-term consistent happiness. It's necessary. You can't believe in fairy tales. You can't believe in Disney. You can't believe in these things and hope that somehow this will magically work out if you just do A, B, and C. Life doesn't work that way. And if you believe these things, you're going to be unhappy later. Not now, but later. And that's also an important point. I've talked about this, how I talk about long-term consistent happiness, not just happiness, not just temporary happiness. If you want to be temporarily happy and then miserable later, go marry your girlfriend. Whoever you're dating right now, go legally, traditionally, monogamously marry her. You will be so happy. You know, that first year, the wedding, the honeymoon, the first baby, these things are wonderful, wonderful events. It'll make you very, very, very happy. And then 2 years later, 3 years later, 7 years later, you're going to get a divorce and it's going to destroy your life and you're going to be miserable. If you want to be really, really happy, if you want to be really, really happy in 2016 and you were not a left-winger, you would just vote for Trump and then jerk yourself off about how great Trump was. People were so happy. You saw these guys so happy in late 2016 when Trump won the election. Oh my God, these guys were jerking off for a year. Oh my good. How many times on YouTube did you see these guys keep replaying the Young Turks election night video from November of 2016 and go, the stupid left-wingers, look how mad they're, Oh, these Trump supporters were so fucking happy. Are they happy now? No, they're miserable. They're furious. They can't stand it. That's how this works when you don't believe in objective reality. And you have a personality, an inborn personality that is in one of those three categories. Either you're like me and you're just naturally objective, even when you're a little kid, even if you're not that intelligent, you're just naturally objective. And when someone tells you something that sounds a little bullshit, you're like, wait, what? Explain that fucking shit. And if they can't explain it, you probably won't believe it. You're in that category, or you're in the second category where you will buy the bullshit. You'll buy the bullshit. As soon as someone tells you, go, oh yeah, But you have the ability to do your own research and to work on your own brain. I talk about how to clean out societal programming in The Unchained Man, alphamalebook.com. I have an entire chapter on this where you can go to work on your own brain and dig out the bullshit that is in your brain from what you believed when you were a younger person. I had to do some of that myself in my 30s. I had to clean out some of the bullshit that I had from my 20s and teens. Now, fortunately, I didn't have as many people because A, I'm already an objective person, and B, I never went to college. So I wasn't filled with a bunch of horse shit that way. But I had to do that myself. Or, and I doubt you're in this category if you're listening to this podcast and you've gotten this far into the podcast, I doubt you're in this category, but maybe. Or you're in the third category, where with certain crazy things, you'll believe them and you'll always believe them. There will be Trump supporters who several years from now will still think that Trump is going to somehow magically come back and then get elected and then save the country. There are people who are going to just go to their graves thinking that Trump is this amazing, perfect person, or Bernie Sanders is this amazing, perfect person. Or if I just do X, Y, Z, then Jesus and God will love me, and when I die, I will go to heaven. And they will never not believe these things because that's just how they are. And again, it has nothing to do with intelligence. I want to reiterate that yet again because I don't want you to think, well, I'm smart, therefore I won't fall for that. Or only stupid people believe these things. That's not true. It's not true. Very, very, very intelligent people believe really insane, stupid shit. They're all over the internet. They're all over politics. They're all over religion. I have met many of these people. I know some of these people. Very, very smart people who believe the most insane shit you've ever seen in your life. Has nothing to do with intelligence. So you need to figure out, determine what category you're in. Maybe you're in that first category, and that's great. So a lot of you in my audience are. Maybe you're in that second category. You know, you're questioning certain things, but you feel guilty about it. A lot of you Asians and Indians are like that in terms of how your families feel about you. You were raised with this societal programming about you need to please your family, you need to please your parents, and if you don't, you're a horrible, horrible, terrible person. And you've listened to my content, or maybe you've moved to the West and you're starting to kind of figure out, boy, maybe that's not true, but I don't know. I just don't know. Maybe that's what you need to work on. Maybe, God forbid, you're in that third category and you're objective about some things, but not objective about others. Maybe you're perfectly objective about things like monogamy and religion, but it comes to things like Trump or socialism or whatever, you're just stuck in that mode and maybe you're hopeless. I don't know. I just know that most people are in category 2 or category 3. I saw it with my own eyes when I was a kid many, many times, getting indoctrinated with Christian stuff, how it was always me and 1 or 2 other kids in the class who looked at each other like, wait, what? What the fuck are they talking about? And every other kid was like, just nodded their heads like little drones, like little robots. You have the choice to believe what you want. You have the choice to live any way you want. And the way you live starts with your belief structures, and you can choose what you believe. You can choose to be aligned to reality, even if it bothers you emotionally. And that's a critical point. Maybe I'll have another podcast on that. You have to believe in things, even if it bothers you emotionally. Long-term monogamy doesn't work. And we know that objectively, but if you're a hardcore evangelical Christian and a very jealous guy, that reality bothers you. It just really deeply disturbs you emotionally, so you're just going to pretend it doesn't exist. You can't do that. You have to acknowledge it, even if you hate it. I am an American, and my country is collapsing right before my eyes, and that makes me very sad. I wish it wasn't. I wish America was on the rise. I wish America was great. I wish America was a paradise or could become a paradise someday. None of that's going to happen, and that doesn't make me happy. That bothers me. But I'm objective enough to acknowledge it and base my life around it instead of living in a fairy tale. I hope that makes sense. It's one of these tough love podcasts. But again, you have the choice. You have the choice in what you believe and how you live. Cool? Cool. I'll see you very soon. Bye.